Hello, everybody. Today, we're going to discuss one important aspect on rare disease and the healthcare for these patients is equity. This is very important to represent the gap between diverse clinical problems that has this kind of patients. You can change, please. So regarding conflict of interest, I may say that I have all the conflicts of interest because I act as a physician, consulting for pharma industry in academic center, and also as a PI. And this is important for me to understand the whole ecosystem involved in clinical research, and especially for rare disease. Please. So I work today as a senior medical advisor pro bono in a nonprofit organization that exists over 63 years. And this is for social inclusion and defense of the rights for patients, especially with intellectual disabilities, like autism spectrum disorders and other rare disease. And this was created to support the parents of those patients. The next slide. So one of aspects of this institution, it was a pioneer to develop these screen-born tests. And this was very impressive because nobody was thinking in do it at that time. So, and nowadays, this represents institution doing all the genetic, metabolic, enzymatic, and immune disorders in screen-borns. And nowadays, we can say that almost 70% of the screen babies in the state of São Paulo is done by this institution. Also, they are very active in identify and localize these families with children and trying to support. We are extending the newborn screening for about 50 diseases, also in line of the future laws that is being implemented in Brazil to identify those patients. These activities are totally certified by quality standards. And the value of the number of exams performed is almost 3 million tests per year. Next slide. Also, we have very important aspects regarding teaching in research and innovation centers. This is to support clinical trials with agreements with important institutions like São Paulo Research Foundation and other academic sites. The idea here is to provide access to patients also that cannot afford or cannot be enrolled in clinical trials that we try to bring to the country and to support and training other people in these kind of aspects of support those patients. The next slide. It's very important to understand socioeconomic disparity that exists in Brazil and most of the countries of Latin America. Nevertheless, we are an important economic country in 8th to 10th position, and we have a very important market for pharmaceutical products. Usually we've been in the 8th position of the market of new drugs. And it's very important to understand as a socialized medicine, the government is responsible to provide the medical assistance and also the medication. Recently, we have a new law for these aspects, especially for rare disease, that will need to be incorporated to our health economics aspects of the the benefit for the new drugs to be incorporated in our medical systems. And one important aspects, and recently we received a kind of information that Brazil is one of the highest diverse population in the world. So regarding doing clinical trials and perform more analysis regarding these kind of aspects, it's key to have Brazil, and not just in Brazil, the other Latin American countries, especially in South America, have a huge diversity of patients to be analyzed and to be involved in clinical trials. And next slide, please. For me, one of the most important aspects regarding bioethics is respect of equity, because equity is different for equality. Equity is to provide opportunity to everybody at the same level. And the most important, that also justice. So we can need to stop any barrier to provide access to those patients, especially in rare disease, and the high disparity we have in socioeconomics in Latin America and other poor countries. So for me, it's one of the most important concepts on bioethics. The next slide. Brazil, and especially Latin America, nowadays represent only 2% of the total clinical trials in the world. But recently, in August last year, we had approved a new law for clinical research. This new law is going to give more predictable timeline for regulatory approvals, also gives more responsibilities of the PIs to perform these studies, and as I was saying, more equity for the patients to participate in those kind of studies, and also to be protected with insurance adapted for their studies. So we are very pleased to have this new law that is incrementing the number of clinical trials. It's already happened, and also the number of sites that is being created, of expectations of new studies that is coming in the near future. So it's become a public policy for having more clinical trials in Brazil, and it's a very important actions that we had in the last 10 years. The next slide. The questions about health economics is very important, as I say, because if we don't have a kind of legal aspects to identify what kind of medications for rare disease is going to be incorporated or not incorporated, increase the level of health litigation that increase the price of this type of products. So more recently also, we are starting a new way of providing this kind of medications as a risk with the pharma. So this institution, Instituto Clemente, where I work, we developed a study for muscular dystrophy medication to provide the medication, and we're going to analyze those patients, the aspects of disease in English, SMA. So we're going to analyze very soon as a screen board patients with SMA, and we start receiving the drug and see if the value of the medication starting very soon is going to be benefit for the government and the patients. So this is a very important aspects that we had initiated recently as at risk with pharma industry. The next slide. So to finish, I still believe that globally we need more peace, and peace comes in Hebrew, the word shalom. It comes from another word that calls shelemut, that means integrity. And for me, integrity, peace, it's a very important aspects to be the three pillars of how we have to live, and also in clinical trials and trying to treat rare disease. Thank you.